Okay, everybody. Today is September the 6th, 2018, and this is the first in a series of videos that I'm going to record about my process to gender confirmation surgery. I was confirmed for surgery last week, and they feel like that probably we can actually have the procedure in December, so that's 4 months. And when I started transition and started asking myself, is transition right for me? Like a lot of people, I went out to YouTube and I started watching videos, and there was just this fantastic body of information out there left by people who had transitioned before me. Beautiful men and women talking about their experiences, talking about their fears, talking about their challenges, talking about how to do makeup, just a really, really huge body of information. And I'm so thankful for all of those people. Some of those people are now friends of mine. I was just so impressed with what they were doing. I had to get to know them. But there is a kind of we'll call it a weak spot. There's a place where people tend not to dive real deeply into, and that's the actual process of having gender confirmation surgery. And the reason why people don't like to talk about that is really obvious. It's extremely private. We don't want to put our genitals on the internet. We don't want to share with the whole world. And of course, society is not very receptive to conversations about your most intimate elements of your biology. And after I was confirmed for surgery last week, I really found myself kind of wishing, I wish I could go out to YouTube and really look through this with somebody, really live this process with somebody. There are plenty of women and men out there who had talked about it, but nobody would really deep dive to the level that I need now that it's my turn, right? And so I've decided that it's sort of important to me, even though I didn't videotape my transition up to this point, to add what I can to that body of knowledge that's out there for folks, and really take you through transition. I'm going to come back once a week, talk about everything that's happened, talk about urologists, talk about psychologists, talk about procedures, talk about my emotional state, and try to really leave this as my mark for the next person coming along considering gender confirmation surgery. So I want to do 2 videos today, this being the first. And in this one, I want to talk about what is gender confirmation surgery? Why do people do that? What is that all about? And then I'll come back in the second video and just give you a little bit of history of who I am and how I came to be here, so that as we get into these next weeks talking about the process towards transition, you can really understand what it is that we're doing and who I am when I say that I want to do it. So the place where I really want to start talking about gender confirmation surgery is actually with what's called body dysmorphic disorder. And this is a psychological condition that's pretty well documented and pretty well understood. Your physical sex is whether you got an X chromosome or a Y chromosome, right? And if you got the 2X chromosome, your body develops as a female, and you develop female genitalia and go through female puberty and so on and so forth. And if you have an X chromosome, you do the same thing except for males. Well, that's not actually where gender comes from. There is an event in utero that happens in the 20th week of pregnancy that's called the testosterone surge. And when the testosterone surge happens, it causes physical changes in the brain. And people who get that testosterone surge come out with traits and behaviors and physical brain structures that we would consider to be male. And if it doesn't happen, you come out with what we would consider to have a female brain. And of course, that's not an absolute. There are plenty of men out there with some attributes that seem very feminine to us, and some women out there who are playing what we would perceive traditionally as very masculine roles in society. It is by no means set in stone what that organization is like. But the fact that there's variability in it is important, because for some people, the variation is really dramatic. There are children out there who will, by age of 4 or 5, be telling you, no, I'm a boy, this is a mistake. You can say whatever you want about my body, I'm still a boy, or the reverse, female. There are others of us who sort of go through an uncovery process and really, struggle with, wait a minute, you're telling me things that don't make sense to me internally. How do I deal with that? And there are entirely other people who say, yeah, it doesn't make any sense at all. the whole concept of gender just really doesn't work for them. Um, I happen to be in the category that was born with a male body and couldn't figure out why I wasn't allowed to play female roles in society. It was really very confusing to me. And that is gender dysmorphic disorder, right? This body doesn't really articulate me. For people with serious cases of gender dysmorphic disorder, it is a really, really dangerous and powerful condition. Something like 50% of all people who are diagnosed with gender dysmorphic disorder have attempted suicide at some point in their life. And that's just about that internal conflict, right? This isn't right. This isn't who I am. This isn't who I'm supposed to be. I'm trapped in this body. It's not right for me. And in response to that, doctors have developed a series of surgeries and procedures that are corrective procedures to make the body look like the mind tells us that who we are, right? This body now looks like who I am. And those range from really very small procedures. You can have your lips filled, for example, to give you a more feminine looking mouth. Major facial surgeries, you can have breasts added or reduced. And there's one that just really stands at the end of all of that is the, oh my God, why would you do that procedure? And that is gender confirmation surgery, where you have your genitals deconstructed and reconstructed in a configuration that is much more matching to your psychology. I don't know a whole lot about what it is like for guys, people coming from female to male. I know that they take a tube of skin from somewhere else and create a phallus with it. And I'd love to help you guys out. I'd love to talk about it, but it makes no sense to me why anybody would do that. And I don't know a whole lot about it. I'll try to include you in the conversation as much as I can in terms of, how destructive is this? How is it emotionally? How does the insurance look at it? Because I think those things will stay pretty in common. But I'm headed the other direction, and I know a lot more about it. I'm sorry. It's just who I am. So the specific surgery that I'm looking at and that I've been approved for, now when I say approved, I've had all of the psychologists and all of the doctors agree. We're still working on the insurance, guys. We'll get there. Is a procedure that's called penile inversion. And what happens in penile inversion is exactly what it sounds like. The shaft of the penis, the skin off of it, is literally taken and turned inside out and put up into your body. That's actually only a part of what goes on there. There's a whole lot of sort of cosmetic work that goes with that. The tissue from the testicles, part of it is actually sewn onto the end of that to serve as the end of the new vagina. They are referred to as neovaginas. And then also that same tissue from the scrotum is used to create the visible labia. And I'm not going to post videos or pictures up here, but if you're curious, you should go look. Modern vaginoplasty just looks remarkable. The head of the penis is preserved, and it is brought back in and trimmed down and becomes the clitoris. The urethra is also you have this extra length of urethra is preserved, and it becomes the inner lining of the labia. Which serves both to help you self-moisturize and to, really to self-moisturize. And then, of course, cosmetically, it's bright pink and looks appropriate. Like I said, I'm not going to put pictures up here, but you can go check it out. It's the real deal. In terms of risk, it is actually not that risky a surgery. There are risks associated with it. The one in particular risk is that during the insertion of the new vagina, you have to create an opening in the body to put it up in and anchor it. And most people who have serious complications, what happens is that damages the large bowel, which can cause infections and other sort of problems. The rate of incident that was quoted to me when I was looking at the surgery is about 1 in 400 times that the procedure is undertaken. That number is probably not entirely realistic, though, because that considers all people, including people who are, for other physical reasons, not in good shape to have the surgery. It considers all surgical theaters, which there are some places in the world that you can go to get the surgery done that don't necessarily follow good clinical guidelines, and we can't be sure. So we can't really know what the actual risk is, but for me as a within weight and otherwise good health person going to an advanced treatment center here in the U.S., I'm in the care of KU Med. The odds that I will have that complication are probably much smaller. But frankly, 1 in 400 is a number that I'll take. So we'll just go with 1 in 400 until proven otherwise. Let's see, I'm trying to think if I've missed anything in the physical description. All erectile tissue is completely removed in the version of the process that I have. Some versions of the process actually leave some there on the theory that it provides pressure on the vaginal wall. Doesn't make much sense to me, and it doesn't to the doctors at KU either. They do a full excision of everything that is erectile. So once the surgery is completed, the things that I've seen, I heard this one woman talking about, I was so excited to see my vagina, and then the first time they sat me up, I felt like I was sitting on a tennis ball, and I said, "What is that?" And they said, it's the swelling. And she said she didn't actually see her vagina for like 6 weeks because everything's just so swollen. You can imagine after that kind of a serious surgery, right? So there's a pretty long post-op period, usually only about 48 hours in the hospital, at least if you're here in the US. But then you're not even able to drive for a week. So you're really laid out flat for a week. And then a 6 to 8 week sort of recovery process until you're really ready to get back to normal activities and your normal daily life. I don't know how long it is until the first time that you're supposed to be able to actually use it for intercourse. Not really a priority for me, so I'm not big on those details, but I'm sure I'll find out at some point, and I'll be sure and let you guys know, because of course everybody's very concerned about when you can actually use the thing. It does come with significant aftercare. It will try to collapse in on itself and just fold up. Those tissues tend to, I think it's called a laminar or something, laminate or something. They tend to want to stick together now that they're in there in that dark little hole. And you have a series of, they're called dilators, which is a fancy word for dildo. Let's just be straight, that you use to stretch and to keep it open while it's healing. And then if you're not using it for intercourse, you do have to continue to dilate it for the rest of your life in order to keep it from closing up on you. I hear a lot of different things about what they are actually like during intercourse. Most of my friends seem to like theirs. Some of them don't actually use them for penetration very much. I don't know that. I can tell you that for me, in a lot of ways, it's a cosmetic concern. I live and work as a female, and it is no ends of awkward when you're, trying to figure out how to get in and out of a locker room, or even just trying to make sure you're safe in the restroom. I will use it eventually someday, and I'm really, really excited about to have the opportunity for that. But that's really kind of separate to just freeing my body and getting out of this prison of masculinity that I've been trapped in my whole life. So I will probably come to those details more slowly because they're just not priorities for me. So, all right, very matter-of-fact talk in here, and I plan to keep being this matter-of-fact all the way through the process. If you have questions, I want to really invite you to leave comments. The comments are moderated because I know I'll get haters out there, and we'll deal with those when we get to them. But I will be reading your comments, and I'll be happy in a later video to come back and answer questions if I know the answer, or go find an answer, or I'll do whatever I can. So if you have questions that I can answer for you, leave them in the comments or the questions. The other thing is that I'm not monetizing these videos. I'm not putting AdSense on them. I just really hate having to see about the latest Dodge 150 truck in order to have a conversation about something actually relevant to my life. But I have set up a Patreon and the link will be below. So if what I'm doing is valuable to you, please consider going out and giving me a little bit of a thank you there. This has been September 6th, number 1. Thanks for joining me, and go see me over in video 2 where I'm going to talk about who I am for a little bit. Bye-bye.